Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for another office hours training. I am Crystal L. Gunn, your financial strategist. Part of my job, be it on the business side or the personal side, is to help you create a solid financial relationship or a strong business base or foundation on which you can grow. And I also help you to have some aha moments, some self-discovery moments, and helping you see what no longer serves you so that you can release it to grow. And all of that helps with the breakthroughs. That's where you start to shift. That's where the magic happens, be it on your personal finances or in your overall business. For the past couple of weeks, I've been talking about some bad money and finance habit observed in us. And when I say us, I'm talking about the African American community. And when we think about healing and redefining our financial relationship, we have to peel back all of the layers in order to break those generational curses that people talk about, so that we can build new strategies for the generations that follow and pass down some generational wealth. So go back and watch these past episodes. But let's continue with the burden of high debt levels. And yesterday I talked about the historical context, and today I want to touch on some social economic challenges, but most importantly, some self-accountability issues, right? And so we know throughout history, up until this very second, there has been and there will be systemic inequalities, racism, higher unemployment, redlining, income disparities, and the list goes on. And those things represent one side of the coin. And if you know me, I talk a lot about understanding why you operate the way that you operate and healing that so that you can then operate in ways that work for you and the generations that follow you, right? We can't keep wanting those who have oppressed and those who continue to benefit from the oppression, right, to come up with some solutions for us, right? So again, that, racism, systemic inequalities, all of that represents one side of the coin. So today I want to talk about a little bit about that other side of the coin, that side that the individual can control, you, me, our own financial relationship. And in this instance specifically, the relationship with credit. And I talk about and do workshops under this title, Get Your Financial House in Order. And that is what we ultimately need to do, again, in order to cancel out that 2053 prediction of Blacks having zero wealth, right? So remember, we are still talking about mindset and self-accountability. So when we talk about credit, let me just kind of tell you some things that I see or some things that I hear. I see a lot of maxed out credit cards, right? And not just Visa, debit, MasterCard. Visa, MasterCard, Discover, or American Express. I'm talking about a lot of store cards. So Macy's, Nordstrom's, TJ Maxx, all the store cards, those Victoria's Secret, those store cards where if you needed a hot water tank or you needed a plane ticket, you couldn't get, because you can't buy a plane ticket with a Macy's card, right? Like for an emergency situation or hot water tank. And if you know me and follow me and watched anything that I do about credit, I'm not a fan of store credit cards, right? And when I give instructions on how to use cards effectively and all of that, and when I'm working with clients or in workshops, I'm saying, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, right? But maxed out credit cards. And I see it time and time again. Now, we know we are living in some interesting times today with the inflation the way that it is, and things literally being 4 times as much as they were, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So a lot of people are using credit cards because they don't have the money for some things, right? And I'm talking basic things, food, gas, paying utility bills now, right? But, and so we're over $1 trillion collectively across this nation in credit card debt. And there's somebody that's saying, well, yeah, again, because of what I just said, prices of everything being so high. But prior to, so third quarter of last year, we were still 1.8 billion collectively in credit card debt, right? And so, it's not just because of everything is so high. Some of that is we just have maxed out credit cards. And I see it a lot, right? And people will say, yeah, but I pay, when I'm talking to them and I'm like, well, what's your minimum payment? And they'll say, well, my minimum payment is, $27, but I pay, 35 or 40, or I try to pay. So one thing is we're not using credit cards effectively, which is what one of the things that I try to teach. But we have to go back and look at why we have maxed out credit cards. Why do we have a maxed out Macy's card? Why do we have a maxed out TJ Maxx card? Why do we have maxed out store cards where we're going to buy more things? And so again, I'm not talking about you went to Lowe's because you had to buy stuff for the house. I'm talking shopping for more things. And I talk about this all of the time, is when we're looking at where do we place value. Now, I'm not saying that you're not supposed to have the things, but when the things wind up becoming a burden, you bought the things on the card. Now you have these maxed out credit cards. And when you start to look at those interest rates of, especially on store cards, of 22, 27, 29%, that $100 outfit that you bought, now you've paid for it 3 times over, right? So we got to look at that whole picture and say, how am I going to get this under control? Well, you know me, I'm going to tell you every single time, an efficient and effective budget is what you need to start with in order to master your money. And in mastering that, you also are going to be able to master that credit card debt, because you will be able to pay those things off one time. Or you have to look and say, I don't have money sitting aside for shopping, so I can't go shopping. I have to wait until that. And so again, I don't think you shouldn't have the things, but when we're creating that efficient and effective budget, part of that, one of those line item allocations becomes, for shopping, because I don't think you're not supposed to have the things, but when do the things become a burden? They start to become a burden when you've maxed out your credit cards and you're paying all of this interest rate on it. Another thing that I see a lot on credit in our community is cell phone company collections. You were with AT&T and you got a new phone through T-Mobile. T-Mobile gives you the debit card to pay off whatever you had with AT&T, except you don't use it to pay off AT&T. Now there's a collection account on your credit for AT&T. So and instead you use that money for something else. And it could be something else that's truly needed, but it really should have been used for what it was designated for, because now you've taken a hit on your credit. And I see it happen time and time again. And sometimes I see it, from 2 different phone companies on people's credit. And so when the negative thing happens, that's when your score takes a hit. So now your score has taken a hit because you have this collection account on there, right? And it's going to impact you. Another thing that I see is people want to get their score just high enough to get that mortgage loan. So they wind up letting the minimum be their maximum, which keeps the loan options slim and interest rates higher, right? I literally have a client now who just for credit, and I don't do just credit repair. It's credit repair, credit build, and credit coaching. So I show you how to build your credit, and then I also coach you on how to use it effectively. so that you never wind up hopefully needing my assistance or anybody's assistance again. And he needed he needed his score to go up some, right? And there's a minimum credit score for mortgage, specifically a mortgage loan officer sent it to me. And so when you look at mortgage loans, right, there's always that first hurdle is the credit score. Oh, you got to have a minimum credit score of X. And so he's close to that. He's like really close to that score. And he was like, I see that I'm really close to that score. So once that happens, I'm not going to need probably not going to need your service anymore. And where there's no issue, you don't have to continue to pay. But the fact that you don't want you don't want it all cleaned. Right. And understand I am a firm believer when I'm doing a thing, especially for mortgages, I want to help you get into the mortgage as quick as possible. Right. Um, but I also want you to have the information that you need to possibly get there better. And it's why my system is the way that it is, so that we're building and repairing simultaneously, so that time is condensed, but and I'm coaching simultaneously as well, so that even when we're done, you still can, right? Because some people need to get out really quickly, and some people have time. Oh, well, I have, you know, 6 months before I have to leave or whatever. And in not dragging out a process ever, because I start with the build and using it effectively from the very beginning. But just to say, I just need my score high enough to get in this mortgage shows a mindset mentality, that is something less than it. That comes from a place of lack and not seeing the value, or never being taught and understanding the value of having great credit. Because yes, you can get a mortgage if you have the minimum credit score that mortgage program allows. But what happens when your score is higher, you have the ability for more loan programs, right? Because there's more than just that one. You have better loan programs. You have better interest rates. Here's another thing. You get better primary mortgage insurance rates. You also get better homeowners insurance rates. Do you see what I'm saying? So to just say, oh, I just need this, if that minimum score is 640, they're just aiming for a 641. So we have to start to understand and say, I don't want the minimum to be my maximum, right? Another thing that I see is just people not wanting to pay for any type of assistance for repair, any type of, not wanting to pay for coaching, not just none of it, again, because they don't see the value. And so we see value in all of these other things, but the very thing, and so many times I've talked to people and they say, well, what I've been working on it. Okay, well, what have you done? And they've told me things that they've done. And I'm like, you know, it either didn't help them. Oh, I had this collection account and I paid it off, or they'll call because now they've been working on things, but they haven't seen any movement. And they were doing things that they thought were going to be beneficial, but they weren't beneficial. And it cost them money because they were paying off, things that they didn't necessarily need to pay off. So it just, getting the assistance from someone who has the knowledge, and again, seeing the value in that, is going to save you some time, energy, and money, right? And number 5 on my list is not having an efficient and effective budget and using credit cards to cover what their income doesn't. And sometimes it's not that your income doesn't, it's that every dollar you earn doesn't have a job, so you don't really know where your money is going. people know where their money is going when they talk about, okay, well, my rent payment is this, or my mortgage payment is this, my car payment is this. Most people know that it's the money that isn't attached to a bill that they're not intentional with, right? And because you're not intentional with that money, you spend it and then you wind up using credit cards. Another thing that is really people who earn commission, and I'm talking like wait staff and things of that nature, who they earn commission. I'm sorry, not commission, tips. They earn tips, but they need the tips in order to live and to pay their bills, right? Like if tips go away, the base money that they make is not enough to cover their basic necessities, the bills, the gas, the lights, the food, the mortgage or the rent payment. So those individuals need an efficient and effective budget more than anybody, because what happens, right, if we have another lockdown? What happens if it just winds up being really slow? Do you get what I'm saying? In whatever industry that is, if the tips that you make says you have to you have to make a certain amount of tips in order to be able to pay your bills, you're putting yourself in a situation that doesn't work. So then you're using your credit cards to cover what you didn't make in tips this week. Or one thing that had a client who, because she's getting these tips paid out in cash, she now has this cash and she's using this cash. And the thing that I had to get her to understand, this isn't free cash. You need these tips to pay your bills, to live your life, right? To pay the things that so that you continue to have a roof over your head. So not having that efficient and effective budget then in a lot of instances forces you to use credit cards to cover the expenses that you don't have, or the needs and the wants that you don't have money set aside for, because you have not assigned every dollar you earn a job. And the last piece that I want to touch on is I think this is really a pet peeve of mine, the complaining that we will do, that financial institutions need to offer programs, different programs, and you can call them what you want. There are community lending programs. I understand, and on the mortgage side, there are community lending programs. And I was talking to two instances. I was at a Michigan Housing Plan meeting, right? And I was sitting at the table for funding for mortgages, basically, right? And we were having these discussions, and there was, I don't know, about 8 of us at this table, and we're talking about mortgage products. And two people at the table kept saying, well, these lenders need mortgage products that um, the scores need to be lower. And I said, and I listened to them go back and forth, because people can't qualify with those scores. And I'm like, and I said, listen, I said, that's not the problem, right? I said, FHA in Michigan, you can do a mortgage down to a 580. How much lower do you want them to lower the credit requirement? And why isn't it that we want to step our games up so that we have better credit? Like, why is it that we're satisfied with the minimum? And not everybody, so please don't start putting in the comments, I got a 750. I talking to those that don't, right? And again, the mindset that we have, that some of it has been created for us, but we have to look at it and be able to change that. And I said, no, we have to have better credit, because listen, your credit history shows how you manage it and how you pay people back. So if your score is low, that means you don't do that. So you are a higher risk, because we got evidence right here that you haven't managed your credit well. And so then I was talking to a guy who has this group. He does, he's in this niche community anyway. So he tries to help the people inside this community that do this business get funding, right? And Um, he said the number one issue and how we even wound up having a conversation. And the number one issue was that they have no credit or their credit is bad. And we had a conversation, and he goes on this, I don't even want to say tangent, but he goes on this tangent talking about um the racism, and you know, they don't want us getting loans anyway. And I said, listen, I said, we know that that exists. I said, but that racism did not prevent Johnny, who had the loan, not pay it, or who had the credit card, miss those credit card payments. Right? I said, so some things we have to own for ourselves, and we have to change the way that we think, and we have to strive for excellence and not this minimum and keep wanting, I will have people come and say, oh, I went to such and such, such that they racist because they wouldn't give me a loan. And then I look at their credit and I'm like, they're not racist. You don't qualify. Your credit is trash, right? You don't qualify. So give me qualifying scores, and then we can talk about the thing. We can't call racism when it's something that we don't qualify for. Is there racism? Absolutely. Not going to sit here and act like there's not. But the other side of the coin is, what responsibility do we take in ourselves in order to make sure we have the best credit, that we get the knowledge that we need? Because somebody will say, well, it's not taught. It's not, but it's not taught anywhere. If well, I can't say anywhere, but you it was never a curriculum for public schools, for sure. And if you don't have the knowledge, you can't teach it to your children. So your children wind up doing the very same thing, right? And so we all are leaving a legacy, and it's like, what type of legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to leave a financial legacy where your children now have maxed out credit cards, where your children don't have an efficient and effective budget, where they don't have life insurance, where they don't have all of these things? And again, that 2053 prediction comes true because we don't do the things that we need to do to get our financial houses in order, so that we can then train, teach, help our children create great financial relationships, so that we then can break the curse and pass down this knowledge to generations. We don't see the value in having great credit, not enough. And we don't see the value in learning how to get it, how to keep it, how to use it effectively. So again, we leave this legacy of less than credit to our children and generations that follow. I know I was on a soapbox today, y'all, but we can't continue to blame everything on everybody else. We got to hold that mirror up, right? And look at that mirror and say, why do I operate the way that I operate? And I need to heal it. The year 2053 is only 29 years away. We can't wait until 2050 to start working on our finances to change that 2053 prediction of Blacks having zero wealth. We literally and truly have to start today. We talk about breaking generational curses, and if the curse is going to stop with you, then a new system of success must start with you. You have to get the tools in order to create those new systems of success. As I step off my soapbox today. And so what are those next things that or my favorite thing? My favorite thing is that credit checkup, personal and business. Listen, and it's a powerful hour. Like, it is a powerful hour. Sometimes people have been doing a thing. They've been working on their credit, and it's getting there, and they're like, but I'm stuck and I don't know what else to do. Had a young lady call me, and she had gotten her credit to, I don't know, right at 700, but she really couldn't get it to that 740 mark and all of that. And so when we had a discussion, I said, well, tell me what it is that you're doing. And when she told me what she was doing, and I just had to correct some things that she was doing, she was carrying balances because she saw that 30% of, your credit score is, uh, credit you or utilization, and she saw somewhere that, people are saying keep your credit under 30%, your balance is under 30% of the limit. She interpreted that as carrying balance at 30% or less of her credit limit. And so we were able to correct that, and I was able to give her two or three other things to do so that she could start to see that movement and explode that movement that she needed. She didn't have any collection accounts, but it was that one session that did that for her. And she implemented the stuff, and she started to see within the next 2 months, because credit's on a 30-day cycle, those changes in that score jump over to 750 because she wanted to buy a house. So that credit check, or you have good credit, but it's a checkup. Just like if you wanted, you go get your oil changed, you go get your annual checkup at the doctor or at the dentist, right? It's that same sort of thing that you do. And just like when you go to the doctor or the dentist, I'm going to tell you, okay, maybe you could do these things, or if you have some concerns, we're going to talk about those things, and you're going to get a strategy on how to do whatever we need to do in order to get you wherever you need to be. Or I'm going to confirm for you, no, you're absolutely right. But I'm going to tell you, typically, when I talk to people on these, I don't think there's ever been one person that I did not add value to, meaning there wasn't one thing that I said, yep, you're really good. Let's just tweak this one thing. And they were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And go, but it's the checkup, it's to get more information. I don't understand why, when it comes to this particular field, and I'm talking about finances in general, we don't want to get as much information as we can. Totally baffles me. I understand the historical context of all of the things. Trust, I talk about that all of the time, and that's part of healing that financial relationship, learning why you operate the way that you do. But even knowing that, and even people knowing the historical context, some of it, why we still don't want to find that information out about finances. So, credit check. The link is in the description below. What are we doing next? Go back and watch my previous credit episodes. Listen, if you have any credit questions, go back and do all that. Pull your credit report. I think there's also a link in the description below for you to be able to pull your credit report if you've never done so. You want to pull it with FICO scores because you want to see where they are. And then if it's not where you need it to be, get with me for a credit checkup. I tell people, if your score is hovering around 680, 640, 680, 690, do a credit checkup. See, what is it that you need to do differently that's going to take you over that 700 mark? I want people to have over 700 credit scores. I'm less concerned about the 800 club. I want you to get over 700, because understand, when you have over that 700, I wrote mortgage loans for very long, for a long time, in different lives, right? And not in different lives, but different eras of my life. So owned a mortgage company and then wrote mortgage loans. And when people walked in with a credit score over 700, we were always happy. Like, we were ecstatic when we pulled somebody's credit and they had over 700, because they pretty much qualify for everything. We knew we could get an approval for them. Now, unless they got, income issues and we can't, but credit wise, we know, okay, well, we can put them in any loan program that we have. They're gonna be fine, right? But that's over 700. We're not like, oh, and I've only ever seen, even from the mortgage side to the managing a mortgage processing team, to running a housing counseling agency years ago, and then having my own United Community Solutions, where I do all of these workshops and free workshops and things of that nature. I've seen very few 800 credit scores, very few. And ironically enough, those 800s were in the financial workshop and in the credit workshop. And that's how they got to 800, because they came to get the information, right? You're going to see far more 700s, and it's fine. Lenders are happy with those 700 scores, because we know that we can get you whatever it is you need with that 700 score. So get with me for your credit checkup. Again, that link is it's in the description, right? And I keep hammering this 2053 prediction because it's crucial. And we think that we have all of this time to get a thing done. And in reality, we don't. We don't have a lot of time. It's like, what did I say, 29 years left? My daughter's 23 now. And I can remember when she was 4, like at birth. And when I look back at how fast that happened, and so I'm using that to say how fast this 29 years will go. So how old will you be in 29 more years? How old will your children be in 29 more years? How old will your grandchildren be in 29 more years? And is the thought of them having zero wealth, how does that sit with you? Right? So again, the trouble is we think we have time, and we have no time to wait and no time to waste. And please remember, always give yourself some grace. Keep striving for your next level and for the next level of your family. Never give up on you and invest in you. I promise you, it is the best investment that you will make. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe to my channel, share it with others. Don't gatekeep on all of this information. We have a individual and collective healing that we must do, And we have to start talking about it. We have to take ownership of it and get it done. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Be sure to join me for the private online Q&A immediately following. The link is in the description. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn notifications on so you never miss this opportunity. Thank you again, and I will see you on the other side.